Hey everybody, this is Mr. Clark. I'm a friend of Mr. T's and just gonna do a little activity to introduce you guys into Procreate. Cool thing about Procreate is it's really simple in the buttons, so I'm not gonna go over basic stuff because you'll figure that out by yourself. But it does help to do little assignments and then play with it because little assignments will teach you some tools. So as you'll see, this blue button that I keep tapping, this is your selection tool. Looks like an S. That's how it's easy to remember. S for selection. I'm going to hit the selection tool, and then I'm going to go down on the bottom. You'll see these buttons lighten up as I'm tapping them. You've got automatic, freehand, rectangle, and ellipse. So I'm going down to the bottom. I'm hitting the rectangle tool, and then I can drag and drop a rectangle. Now, when I drag and drop, depending on your settings, you may or may not see it. So if I go up to the wrench here, and I go to Preferences, and I go to Selection Mask Visibility, you'll see it down here at the bottom sliding. This will show you your selection, or it'll hide your selection even though it's there. Sometimes you want to paint with an area selected, but you want to see what it looks like, so turning the selection mask to visibility to 0 can be helpful. If you want to know what you're looking at or what's being protected, then you can slide to the right. So I'm going to slide it to the middle, kind of in between, so I can show you. So I've selected this rectangle. Now I'm going to go to the top right. I'm going to select a color. Let's do a red, kind of a grade, medium brightness, light red, and I'm going to drag and drop. And that fills. You can see if you grab the circle, the color circle with your pencil and drag it over, that's how you can fill an area. One thing you have to check also, Procreate is always doing new things. I'm just going to undo that. 2-finger tap to undo, 3-finger tap to redo. One thing you have to check when I go to my selection tool again, down at the bottom right, there's a color fill option, little paint bucket. Usually I want that turned off because what that does, if I make a shape, it'll autofill. But you can go down to that little paint can, bottom right, and you can click it. That way you don't autofill unless you want to. I'm going to say don't autofill because I want you to learn how to drag and drop color. So drag and drop. When I'm holding my pencil down, if I slide to the right, it will fill everything. If I slide to the left, you know, if there's like, well, I'll show you in a second. Anyway, I'm going to drag and drop and fill that. Okay. And then I'm going to hit the selection tool again, and that will deselect my selection. And now, if I hit the transform tool, which is this arrow right here, I'm tapping on and off. If I hit the transform tool, then I can rotate this thing. I can move it around. I like to put my pencil or finger outside of the thing that I'm moving. That way I don't accidentally grab some of these bars that will change the size or the shape. But I've got this rectangle and I can manipulate it with the transform tool, the arrow tool on the top left. If I change it to freeform down at the bottom, I can squish it. I can squish it vertically. So you got squash and stretch stuff going on here. If it's uniform, it'll keep its proportions, but you can make it bigger or smaller or rotate it. Oops. One of these, this yellow node will change the rotation point. The green will actually rotate it. So if I hit distort, I can play with kind of the illusion of 3 dimensions, foreshortening, making things bigger and smaller. If I hit warp, then I've got all kinds of other tools I can play with. If you hit warp and then advanced mesh at the bottom, then you've got little nodes you can mess around with. Depending on your shape, that can get pretty confusing. 2-finger tap to undo, 3-finger tap to redo. Let's go back to our rectangle here. Just 2-finger tap all the way back to where I was. Hit transform again. I can flip vertical, I can flip horizontal, rotate, fit to canvas. It just fit the bottom corner and the top corner, so they fit inside of there. Okay, you can reset everything. I'm gonna undo just because I had tweaked my rectangle a little bit. All right, so I've got this rectangle. I can move around. If I'm in warp, I can't move it. I can only distort it. So I'm gonna go to uniform, shrink it down, move it. Now, let's say I use a brush. When you tap on your brush icon, you get all these brushes. I get an inking brush. I like the dry ink brush because it has a nice texture to it. Feels kind of like traditional drawing to me. Now, if I draw a rectangle, and you'll see, there may be some little gaps in my line because of the brush. I closed it off. Let me do a lighter line so you can see what I'm talking about. Now there's these little holes in my rectangle. Ooh, I also created that rectangle on the same layer. That's okay. We'll talk about layers later. All right, if I hold my finger down on the screen, I can select the color. And then I can drag and fill that same pink color. Now you're gonna see it flooded everything. That's because my brush did not connect the lines. So what you have to do is make sure that your lines are connected. And now I can drag and drop and fill. But watch, before I pick up my pencil when I'm filling, if I slide it way over to the right, the threshold will go to 100% and it fills everything. It's saying, how picky do you want me to be? And I'm saying, I want you to select everything, 100%. If it's not clear that there's a line there, even some places that it looks clear to me, it's gonna fill as much as it possibly can. If I slide to the left, it'll fill some things, but not everything. It'll leave some gaps. To the left, it's being picky, saying, no, that's a line, I'm not gonna cross it. So it's kind of a smart tool, but you control it by sliding your pencil to the right or left. Okay. I've got 2 rectangles. And now I'm going to slide to the left, or go to my layers. This is my layer icon. It looks like 2 pieces of paper stacked on top of each other. And if I slide to the left, I can duplicate. And now I've got those same shapes, but on different layers. I can rotate, do all that fun stuff. Now I'm going to play with opacity of layers. So when you go to your layer, there's the layer that's selected is highlighted in blue. So I'm on the top layer now. Now I'm on the bottom layer. You can turn your background, you can hide your background. It's always there, but you can hide or unhide it. You can change the color of it by tapping on your background box. So it shows a picture of what's on the layer. It says layer 1, it's blue if it's highlighted. There's a check. You can hide or unhide your layers. You can also grab and move the one on top on the bottom and the one on the bottom on the top. You just hold it till it activates, drag and drop. I'm going to put the one I'm working on top. And I can tap on this N. N is your layer mode. N stands for normal. And I'm going to slide down to make that it's 100% opaque right now, not see-through at all. If I slide all the way to the left, it's 100% transparent or invisible. And then there's any percentage in between. So this assignment, all you're going to do is you're going to create 2 rectangles, one by drawing a line with the dry ink brush, and one by using the selection tool and filling the rectangle. And then just going to duplicate. And I'm going to play with the transparency modes and create an interesting design or texture, playing with the transform tool. If you want to distort stuff, you can. And I'm just going to keep duplicating different layers. Play with the opacity. Go back to my original layer, duplicate it. And here's the other cool thing you can do. I can also play with blend modes. If I tap on the N, it gives me my opacity slide bar, but it also gives me a whole bunch of blend modes. And I can play with those as well. So the cool thing about the iPad is it's as simple as a piece of paper and a pencil, or Procreate in the iPad, and it's also as complex as the most advanced drawing and painting tools available. And you also don't have to be able to draw great to design cool stuff with it. It's a great design tool because you can manipulate and move and experiment. And you don't have to really draw a single thing. You make marks on the page, but I'm saying it's a great design tool. You can do really nice drawings and paintings, but you can also just experiment and play and try stuff. Bring back my original squares. Playing with some blend modes here. All right. And really experimentation, watching some videos, and then just trying stuff is how you're going to learn this program. Okay, last thing I'm going to do, I'm going to type my name, wrench, add text, Clark. You can see that's in a text box. I made it my top layer. And I'm going to put it on top of everything. I can edit text. I can select it and change the color. I'm going to pinch with grab with my fingers and just pinch all these layers together. I'm just grabbing the top and bottom layer and pinching. Oops, I didn't want to merge my name. And I'm going to turn this layer into a clipping mask. So all that stuff I did, I merged into one layer, and now it's a clipping mask connected to the layer underneath it. Okay, that was a lot for one lesson, but experiment, try it, see what you think. Put this on that layer and clipping mask it. All right, welcome to Procreate. Welcome to the iPad, and have fun.